Welcome back. You're watching a total lunar eclipse here on timeanddate.com. Having a look at our timeline on the left-hand side of the screen, we can see that we're around about midway through the partial phase of this eclipse. And sure enough, if we look at our telescope images coming in there, we can see that around about half the moon is now getting eaten away by Earth's dark inner shadow. Anna, we're here at the timeanddate.com HQ in Stavanger, Norway. Now for us here, we've got a beautiful clear sky, but the moon is really low on the horizon. The moon is going to be setting for us in about 15 minutes time, but we just all crowded in to Matthew's office, who has got the most amazing view of the moon. They're close to the horizon, getting eaten away by Earth's shadow. And yeah, it is spectacular. And remember, if you're anywhere on the nighttime side of Earth, if you have clear skies,
go and see it.
You can just go out, look up, and enjoy this, just like we enjoyed it there from the window of Matthew's office. Yeah, we should say that Matthew Gunderson, he is one of our moderators tonight on our YouTube chat. He's there. He's doing a great job along with our in-house astrophysicist, Dr. Renata Molenhoes. Yeah, they're looking after the chat there on YouTube. So we've had some beautiful images here on screen, and we are getting three very different views of this eclipse from our three different locations. We can kind of see that looks like the moon's shadow is coming in from different angles across the moon. People are wondering, what's going on there?
And this is where I try to explain it, but I do know how to explain it. So we're looking at images here from the USA. We've got from Charlotte. There, the moon's shadow is eating from the lower left side. You usually say the 7 o'clock position or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the 7 o'clock position. Yeah.
And that is actually what it looks like. If they go outside, look up at the sky, they are outside. If they look up from the screen, up on the sky, they will see the Earth's shadow eating across the moon from that direction. But in Santa Rosa, USA, where we've got John Williams, he's got his telescope has actually flipped the images, and some telescopes do that. You can adjust for it if you like, but it doesn't really matter. And so the shadow looks like it's coming from the top. If he looks up at the sky, the shadow will be coming from the bottom. And we did have some images from Santiago, and the shadow was coming from the opposite side, and that is because they're in the southern hemisphere, and it's almost like you can flip your view of the moon then. So that's also coming from the correct side if Thomas was looking up at the sky and looking at the moon. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and we can also point out that we've got slightly different exposure settings there. So, yeah, the image there from John in Santa Rosa, it's a much more exposed image. So it's really showing us clearly the edge of Earth's dark shadow there on the moon. Yeah, a slightly kind of fuzzier looking edge to the shadow on the image from Charlotte. So yeah, we're looking at yeah, we're getting three very different views of tonight's eclipse. We are heading towards totality. That's when the moon gets completely covered by Earth's darker inner shadow. That's coming up in about 40 minutes. That's when we really see the moon start to take on this this reddish tint. Of course, the big question is, why does it turn red? And well, we're going to talk to someone who can explain that. The person who is sending us that beautiful image from Santa Rosa, this is John Williams. He's had a pretty dramatic evening already.
He has.
with a last minute relocation for clear skies. He's battling strong winds there in Santa Rosa, so we can actually see there is that little kind of little bit of shake in his image. That's because the wind is playing with the telescope there. But yeah, we are going to have a chat with John. He's a web developer for the National Solar Observatory. He's also an award-winning science writer and outreach specialist. And John is going to join us now.
Oh, there he is in the dark.
Hey, there he is. John, you're having quite an evening. How are things going there in Santa Rosa?
You know, this is, I've never been here before. This is right on what they call historic Route 66, about an hour and a half from where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So the wind is picking up. There's a big storm system coming in. That's why I left Santa Fe. And, you know, the temperature is about freezing, and it feels good, though, because I'm seeing the moon.
Exactly. And at some point, this moon is going to turn red. We're looking at your images right now on the big screen. And what I really like about it being exposed the way it is, that I'm hoping that it's going to turn really red, because you're exposing for the light side of the moon. So I'm super excited about that. But we've got a great shot of you on our live page on timeanddate.live, where you're showing a group of kids a telescope and how to use it. And how do you explain when you're doing outreach work why the moon turns red?
You know, it's all about the atmosphere. There's this effect called the Rayleigh effect, where blue light is absorbed by the atmosphere, or reflected and scattered. That's why we get the blue skies. But the Rayleigh effect, the longer wavelengths of light get refracted to our eyes. And so, you know, we're looking at the moon, this light's being refracted through the atmosphere, the Earth's atmosphere, and falling on the moon, these red and brown and orange tones. One of the most kind of the cool things to think about right now, we have some probes on the moon. They're going to take some pictures of the Earth during this eclipse. So they're looking back at that. The Earth is actually eclipsing the sun, although it's not the same as our total solar eclipses. But just think about this. If that light's being refracted through the atmosphere, there should be a red halo around the Earth. And we're hoping that that's what we see. So it would be kind of cool to stay on the moon right now.
Very cool to be on the moon right now. But unfortunately, we're here on Earth. And are all lunar eclipses the same color?
No, they change. And it all depends a lot on how much volcanic ash is in the atmosphere. So in the past, during years of volcanic eruptions, those eclipses tend to be a little darker. They're more ashen, grayish. Sometimes I've lost track of the moon in the sky when it's been very dark. It's easy to find. It doesn't completely disappear. And this idea is not a new one. Back in 1604, this guy named Johannes Kepler, you might have heard that name before, he put forward this idea that the moon turns red because of soot and dust in the atmosphere. He couldn't prove that then, but we know it now.
Yeah. That's super cool. And how do we determine the brightness of the moon during eclipses?
you know, this is a fun thing. I thought this was it sounds like a very hard question or a very hard problem. But I had a friend who used to, a scientist friend who he measured the brightness and the colors of the lunar eclipses. And what he did was he took a telescope, little telescope like this or a pair of binoculars, and he turned it backwards so that so the moon was a tiny little dot in the field of view. And because we know the magnitudes of stars that are around, he was able to make a direct comparison between the two. And that's how we did.
Super cool.
Yeah, that's a great trick. That's a great trick, that one. John, it's been great talking to you. We're going to let you get back to fighting against the wind and holding off that storm that you were mentioning there. So yeah, good luck with all of that.
Thanks.
We're about 35 minutes away from Totality. Don't forget, we've got our timeline there on the left of the screen, and we have a UTC clock down in the bottom right corner. So yeah, a little over half an hour to go until the total phase of this eclipse begins. So stick with us. Don't forget to have a look at our live page at timeanddate.live. And we will see you back here soon.
Bye, John. Welcome back. You're watching a total lunar eclipse here on timeanddate.com. We're about 15 minutes out of totality, and wow, look at the moon from Santiago, Chile. It just looks amazing, and like, you know, doesn't look like a normal full moon at all at the moment. And what is the, you know, it's red, it's blue, it's white. What is the blue thing? We've talked about the white thing, we've talked about the red thing, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So here on our feed from Santiago, at the border between that light white side of the moon and that sort of darker redder side of the moon, we can see this kind of bluish tinge, and this is something that's sometimes called the turquoise band.
Okay.
As John was explaining in the interview that we did earlier, as light passes through Earth's atmosphere, it becomes reddish. So Earth's shadow in space has this, the inner part of the shadow has this reddish tint to it. But the edge of Earth's shadow, the outer part of Earth's shadow, that's the ozone layer. Light passing through there actually takes on a bluish or kind of a turquoise-ish tinge. So what we're looking at, or what we were really getting a very good view of there in the Santiago feed, was that actually, the Earth's dark reddish shadow actually has this sort of light bluish outline. It's normally very difficult to see. We're actually getting a wonderful look at it here on this feed. And if you are out looking at the moon, it generally becomes more visible closer to totality. That's when that sort of light side of the moon gets smaller and smaller. That gives us kind of more of an opportunity to see it with the naked eye, but it is difficult to see, and we are getting a fantastic view of it here from Santiago.
And I think it's the best view we've had of it through our 8 years of live streaming.
I would agree with that, absolutely.
It's just spectacular. It looks like another planet.
It really does. Yeah.
Well, this is the first total lunar eclipse in 2.5 years, and we're excited because I don't know, I can't decide what I like the most: solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, but they're all so special. And over the next 12 months, we're gonna, and if we're including tonight, we're gonna have 3 lunar eclipses, and it's been a while, and that's why I'm so excited. What's going on, Graham?
Yeah, that's right. As you say, 3 totalities starting in about 10 minutes, 3 totalities in the space of 12 months. It is interesting that there are these sort of rhythms and patterns to eclipses. So tonight we have just over an hour of totality coming up. In 6 months' time, on September 7th and 8th, we're going to have another total lunar eclipse. That's going to give us an hour and 22 minutes of totality. And then after that, next year on March 2nd and 3rd, we're going to have a total lunar eclipse with about 58 minutes of totality. So 3 total lunar eclipses, but during the same period, we're not going to have any total solar eclipses.
No.
So the next total solar eclipse, that's not until August next year. So we do see these kind of shifting patterns in eclipses. And at the moment, the way that the Earth, the moon, and the sun are aligning, it's really favoring lunar eclipses over solar eclipses. We should also say that it's almost a year since the last total solar eclipse. That was on April 8th, 2024. Anna, that's when you and I were in Llano, Texas, for that one. So tonight we are ending this 2.5 year period with no total lunar eclipses, but we are in the middle of a 2.5 year period with no total solar eclipses.
That's a nice pattern. And Totality is about to begin. I think we're like 10 minutes out.
Yeah, we can really see them. The moon is the dark side of the moon is really starting to take on that reddish tinge. Still seeing that sort of beautiful bluish fringe to the dark shadow there as well. Wow.
And I had a disappointing peek out the window before we came back in, and our moon has gone under the horizon.
Alas, it's over for us here in Norway.
So I'm very happy that I can see it here on the screen. We're going to be back soon. Take a look at timeanddate.live for more info, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on our next lunar eclipse. You're watching a total lunar eclipse here on timeanddate.com, and we are in Totality right now, and we're going to stay here for an hour or so. And this is the famous blood moon, and I get it. And we can also see like a light edge on the moon there, especially in Santiago, Chile. So yeah, it's looking good, isn't it, Graham?
It is, yes. So yeah, the moon is now totally within Earth's dark inner or umbral shadow. It is still near the edge of the shadow. It's kind of slowly moving deeper into this dark shadow, but it is still a little bit near the edge, which means that we do have a slight difference on one side of the moon versus the other. So in our feed there from Charlotte in the USA, we can see that that top right edge of the moon is a bit lighter than the bottom left edge of the moon. If we look at our feed there from Santiago in Chile, we can see it's the other way around. There it's the bottom left edge is a bit brighter than the top right edge. Of course, this leads to the question that we often get asked, why do we have this difference between these images? It's a really good question. The first thing we have to say, Anna, is that, we are all looking up at the same moon. We are looking at the same event happening at the same time. This is not like a solar eclipse. No. At a solar eclipse, there we have the moon's shadow is sweeping across the Earth. So different observers in different places see the eclipse happening at different times. Here with a lunar eclipse, it's the Earth's shadow sweeping across the face of the moon. All the action is taking place, hundreds of thousands of miles away. So we're all seeing the same event happening at the same time. The big difference here between our feed from Charlotte in the USA and Santiago in Chile is that we're looking at it from different hemispheres.
Yes.
So as we go from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, or the other way round, then we see the sun and the moon, we see them the other way around. We sort of get them flipped. Now, this happens, to everything in the sky. It happens to the sun, but of course we don't normally notice the sun getting flipped around. We do notice the moon getting flipped around in different hemispheres. It's particularly noticeable with things like moon phases.
Yes.
So next week we have a third quarter moon coming up. This is when half of the moon's disk is illuminated. It's also called a half moon.
Yeah.
So in the northern hemisphere, it's roughly speaking the left-hand side of the moon that's illuminated. In the southern hemisphere, it's the right side of the moon that's illuminated. And it's this same effect that we're seeing here with the difference in our pictures from the USA and Chile. It's a northern hemisphere perspective versus a southern hemisphere perspective.
And we're kind of midway through totality, or at least coming up to maximum eclipse. And that's the deepest part of the eclipse. The moon's been traveling deeper and deeper into Earth's shadow. And in around 15 minutes, we're going to be at its deepest point, and the moon will be at its dimmest. And this is a lot dimmer than a normal full moon. A normal full moon is really bright. You try to take a picture of it, you just get that bright dot. You don't really kind of, it's just this thing, and you think it's big and beautiful. And then it's just this little silly dot in there. And that's because it's so right. So during totality, it's really nice to go outside and, stay outside and see what happens to the night sky as the moon gets dimmer, because this time, not so many planets close to the lunar eclipse. We did have a lunar eclipse way back in 2018 where Mars was really close to it. It was beautiful, but you can see stars, you can see other things that you wouldn't normally see next to the full moon because it's so much dimmer. So go outside and have a look if you have the chance. We don't. We can see the sun has come up. I'm a bit disappointed. I'm excited for the next eclipse that we can see here in Norway. We're going to be keeping this live stream going for another 2 hours, all the way up to the end of the second partial phase, when the moon has completely left this dark shadow. And shines this bright white again. So we're excited about that too. So stay with us. Take a look at timing.live. You can see John there. You can see Thomas there. A little bit about them, a little bit about Stefan and Constantine, who are working their little bums off in Charlotte, USA. So we will be back soon.